Hey, it's B-Rad Celebrity Hairstylist here, your host of the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast. Today we have a subject that for some people may find overwhelming. Some content may be graphic because it's something that we all deal with. It could be a friend, it could be a coworker, it could be your boss, it could be a family member, it could be somebody you're dating. So what we're talking about is narcissism. And if you don't know what narcissism, and it's kind of a tough word to say, but being a narcissist and dealing with someone who is a narcissist may be something in your life that you need to know what the signs are, how to deal with. Maybe we can show you, or our guest can show you a technique of how to kind of deal with that. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Angie Atkinson, who is I guess you have the site, queenbee.com. She's an author. She has an online academy. She has daily videos and live streams on YouTube. She has now well over 58,000 followers already just on YouTube alone. She deals with narcissistic abuse recovery. So I want to say welcome, Angie, and thank you for being on the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Angie and I, we have done a show before, the Empowerment Podcast, or the Empowered Empath. Wow, I can't talk today. Good thing we're not live, but you guys listening. So what we do is we actually do an audio version of the show as well as the video version, which goes online on YouTube. So Angie, we'll just jump right into it, and I'll just give, if you can give our audience a little bit about your background and kind of who you are and kind of how it came to be that you wanted to specialize with narcissistic abuse recovery.
Okay, that's a big question. So I was originally a journalist, and I was blogging on the side just because I thought, well, I have to do something with my, my excess creative energy. So I started as a journalist, started blogging. I had a small business on the side. I was doing building websites and doing marketing and stuff like that for people as kind of a way to make money, but at the same time, I found myself blogging about things that were happening in my life. And so one of the things I did as a journalist is whenever I had anything I was thinking about or concerned about, I would write a well-researched article based on scientific facts and things. I'm kind of a nerd. And I put several of those on my blog over the course of, I don't know, a year. Maybe I was writing one a month at that time. Mm-hmm. And those were the articles that remained the top 10 on my site for like 2 or 3 years. Every time I would write about that topic, people would flock to the site. And I thought, this is really weird. What is this? But it seemed like it was the thing that people were most resonating with on my site. And so I started kind of looking into it a little deeper, researching more, writing more, started writing about once a week about it. And that was around the time people started asking me to coach them. And I was like, I'm not qualified to do that. Mm-hmm. And so no thanks. But then I realized that it was something that I could do well because I understood both the disorder and how it felt to be abused by someone with the disorder. Mm-hmm. So I went and I got my life coaching certification and then several other certifications. Mm-hmm. And then I opened up that part of the business. And since then, shortly after that, I think I got on YouTube, just originally as like an experiment. Mm-hmm. It worked out really nicely, I guess. And today I not only don't work for other people, but I have several people working for me. And the community continues to grow and grow and grow because there are so many people out there who thought, oh my gosh, I'm alone. And it turns out they're not. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Because with your coaching now, you have added some additional coaches to your practice. Mm-hmm. You do a daily live, and it's amazing how many people that are in need of what you have, because daily, and some of these stories can be pretty graphic, and for what these people are telling with this private stream that you do, but you also offer free resources. You also offer Facebook online groups that people can join as well. So if somebody is suffering from, not suffering, but if somebody's in a situation with a narcissist, so number one, if someone doesn't know what a narcissist is, what would be some indicators to look for?
So I think the biggest and most universal indication of a narcissist would be they lack empathy, and
Mhm.
especially for people close to them. So they may appear to display empathy at certain times, like for trying to impress people during the early phases of a relationship. They may seem to have empathy or seem to be a lot like the people that they are involved with, but it's a phase called love bombing. And so
Mhm.
you'll find with a narcissist in a romantic relationship, very early on, they often seem like the perfect person. They're like your soulmate. They seem like they like all the same things you like. And what happens is once they kind of notice that you're human, they push you right off that pedestal and into the devalue phase.
Mm.
And that's when you start to see the true narcissist. That's when they start to tear you down personally, and it starts really subtly at first, but over time it becomes quite blatant. And I know you've personally experienced something similar,
Mhm.
haven't you? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I've had it with relationships I've had bosses have had that, coworkers that have that, but obviously more of the love bombing would happen during a relationship. Or do you think even in a job situation, like a new boss, instead of love bombing, what they would do is praise you. You're a
Mhm.
great, you're a great asset to the company, this and that. And I think that's what draws you in so easily, because you're
Mhm.
like, wow, this person. And I think that's a tough thing too, because when you're in the love bombing stage, everything is wonderful, everything is roses. And then when things start to change to devalue, then what happens is it must be me because this person's saying that, I'm not as good. I don't really love you as much.
Mhm.
You're a terrible person. You're like all this stuff they play mind tricks, which next time they start gaslighting and doing that kind of stuff, and you think you're going crazy, but you think this person cares about me, this person thinks I'm wonderful, so they only have my best interest, at heart. And I think that's the most, I think, difficult for people to. And would you say, Angie, that the switch kind of sometimes even happens all of a sudden, not even gradually?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what I think, you asked me a question and I'm trying to um oh, okay. Let me try to answer that whole thing. Okay, so
Sure.
at you said love bombing as in other relationships
Hmm.
outside of
A romantic
a
relationship.
romantic one. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what I would call that is, idealization. And really that's what the whole thing is. We call it love bombing in the industry
Hmm.
because it's easy to understand. But the real term is idealization. You are idealized by the narcissist in the beginning of your relationship. And if you are the child of a narcissist, which it turns out a lot of us are,
Hmm.
um, you you were idealized at different points in your life. The cycle, and you may have not been idealized if you had a sibling who was the golden child and you were the
Hmm.
scapegoat. But the cycle looks like idealize and then devalue and then discard. And this cycle will run in loops throughout the relationship. So you might be with somebody for 30 years and yet you go you go through idealize, you go through devalue, you go through discard, and then they suck you back in and you're
Hmm.
back to idealize, devalue, discard, and then sucking you back in, we call it hoovering.
Hmm.
Again, easy to remember and understand, hoovering like the vacuum cleaner.
Hmm.
Um, and that cycle is definitely identifiable in any relationship that is consistent with a toxic narcissist. So, like you said, a boss or a coworker or a friend or a parent or, you know, your brother or sister,
Hmm.
you know, and or a romantic partner. So it's a lot of wiggle room there.
Hmm. So with the hoovering stage, how long would a narcissist keep that hoovering stage in effect?
I mean, there's no set, amount of time. I've heard people claim that their narcissist did that for, oh, you mean the sucking back in stage. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
once they're starting to discard you, and then obviously for the person being hoovered,
Right.
they're trying to get now away from them, but
Right.
now they're trying to bring them back in. So as long as they're a constant supply, do you think they would keep the hoovering, or when they've found another person?
So I think it's a again, it kind of depends on the narcissist and the situation, because
Hmm.
in some cases you will have like a romantic partner who goes off and gets with someone else. Maybe they spend 10 years with that person, and maybe
Hmm.
you don't get hoovered for 10 years and you think, oh my gosh, I'm free. And
Yes.
then, 10 years later, they come knocking on your door because that person is boring. Or it could happen the next day or that same day. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
not only is there no limit to when they will do it,
Hmm.
but there is no limit to the amount of it they will do. Now, some narcissists will back off quickly if they don't get the response they want. And those mostly are, a lot of times it's because they end up with someone else, or some
Hmm.
of them even have someone else and they still want to keep you in the circle of supply. They like to have a harem, so to speak.
Hmm.
But I think I wanted to tell me your question one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay, so with someone being hoovered, how long would somebody like a narcissist keep on hoovering someone?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've heard stories of it happening for years. I think the best way to let go of that is to not give them any response at all when they try. And, or as little as possible. If you're forced to deal with them because you share children or business or something like that, then you just give them whatever you are required to give them because of the business you have to do with them. If you are, or if the kids are the business, then the business of the kids. If
Hmm.
you are not required to talk to them for any reason, then I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't respond ever when they tried to hoover. And if you can, or if you're forced to because you run into them in public or something like that, keep it short and unemotional. And that's, what the narcissist is going after is supply when they're hoovering, as you
Hmm.
noted. And
Yes.
so you want to keep that supply gone. And so if normally they go and, try to suck you back in to love or drama, because both of those are options for
Hmm.
narcissists,
Hmm.
then you have to, do the opposite of what you would normally do. So if normally you would be like, okay, I forgive you, don't
Hmm.
respond. If normally you would cry, laugh. I mean, that sounds really funny. Maybe don't laugh. That might be dangerous. But do the opposite of what you would normally do.
Yeah,
Don't give them any
because
response.
I guess they're looking for some type of emotional response
Yes.
from you, and they get to know you so well, and because they're not really, would you say they're not, the narcissist is not so much emotionally attached. They appear to be, like you said, with empathy, they appear that they're all about you, they
Mhm.
feel what you feel, but the whole point is they're playing that game until a better supply comes along.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
with that, can you explain gaslighting a little bit?
sure. It's a psychological form of manipulation that basically it's subtle and sneaky, but it allows the narcissist to sort of make you doubt your own reality, to doubt what you see before your eyes, to doubt everything that you think, say, feel, all of the things. And again, because it's so sneaky, it's really difficult to detect. So for example, they might kind of put a bug in your ear that they are, let's say you're a blonde and they're a red, they tell you that they're into redheads. And then subconsciously, they slip little things in. And every time you see a redhead, you notice they look. And then
Mm,
every time you're around redheads, you feel nervous and insecure, especially when that person is there looking. And then it becomes an ongoing problem. And then by the time they're done with you, you not only hate redheads, but you probably colored your hair red. You know what
ex-
I'm saying?
exactly, because you want to fit in or you want that love so bad. I guess the most common, even though narcissism happens in with all different types of people, but I think the most that we hear about is usually the relationship kind, where and with your show that you have daily, I believe Monday to Friday, you have a lot of people in there that are survivors, because I think
Mhm.
that's a very strong word, and I think it's something to be empowered that you can be a survivor. And
Yeah.
some of those techniques are, I guess what I'll do is I'll get you to explain what is gray rocking.
Okay. Right now?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or when
Okay.
would you need to use it, or do you need to use it, and how would you use it?
Yeah. So gray rocking is so it was invented by this girl named Skylar. I think she's female. I don't actually know. But I know that I did the research when I first heard the term, and her name is Skylar. She's on the internet. I think it's 180something.com. I can't remember, but if you type in SKYLAR gray rock, you'll see. Anyway, Skylar said that it's like being as boring as a gray rock. That's why she named it that. And it's the truth. It's the truth. What it comes down to is you do not offer any emotional reaction at all ever to that person. And the idea being, narcissists will get bored with that because they don't get supply from that. So if you don't share your emotions with them and you just, it's very difficult, but you literally have to be like this, watch. And no laughing.
Yeah, but
no emotions.
Just no response, no.
Yeah.
And like you said before, or give them the opposite, but two gray rocking really means is they're almost invisible now to you.
Yes.
So you don't respond unless you absolutely, like you said, if they have kids and they share kids, sometimes you can avoid that person, but you do the minimal amount possible, no reaction, do what you need to do, cut, and then would you say cut any other communication off completely?
Yes. And if they send you, if you have kids together, you can get like a special app that is admissible in court. And you can insist that they only communicate through that. I have a video somewhere out there about that. So 7 court-approved apps or something, but it's irrelevant. You can look it up online. Or if you're working with them, again, regardless of what you're doing, if you have to talk to them, you just keep it very businesslike and very cut and dry. No emotions. And so one thing that I tell people is, if a lot of us have worked in customer service over the years, whether we were teenagers or adults, and a lot of us understand what I mean when I say, deal with a narcissist that you must deal with just like you would deal with an angry customer, except with less emotion. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Do what needs to be done and then keep it there. No extra dialogue, no extra looks, no extra.
And don't take it personally. Yeah.
No, and exactly. And I think the toughest thing is to say near the end when you're in that discard stage for I don't really like to say the victim. I don't know what a better word is. The person being used. That they're going through emotionally, because they say you deal with more empowering how for people to go through that process and daily now. So how long have you been doing your online show on YouTube on this subject?
2 years.
2 years. So in that time, your community has grown quite a bit, and you must have regulars that come on almost every single day to just watch, and their stories, and about them. So what's the, I'm trying to think, what is the best way when you're in that discard stage to try to keep a level head?
It's very difficult. I have found that once we figure it out that we're being abused, because that's the sneaky thing about narcissists, is that a lot of us, because we often came out of toxic homes or toxic situations growing up, we don't really understand what normal is. We don't really understand what it feels like to be in a healthy relationship. And so dysfunction feels like home to us, right? And can you hear me when I said that?
Yes.
Okay. My thing keeps going off and I don't know how to turn off notifications. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's exactly it. We don't know how to function. We don't know how to, but another one, and this is a video that you did, it's also too, but it can also happen even in religious circles where there can be religious abuse, or a parent can use that against you. Right? Like it has to be a certain way because these are the rules, the regulations, what we follow and that sort of thing. And I know friends that have been in that type of situation, because anybody just going to your YouTube channel and just to see the videos that you have, the research that you've done, your own personal story, because you're not someone who just read a book and said, I'm going to be a coach. You actually live through these situations. You see these people every day, 5 days a week for 2 years. You've grown your business now, so it's expanded as well. So there must be a need, because you as one woman can only do so much. Plus, you have a family yourself.
Yeah.
You know, but your family now. So describe your family now as compared to previously. It must be like night and day.
Yeah. Well, so it's a lot smaller.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, and it also is bigger in some ways because I now understand, and I think I've always understood up to a point, but I now understand that if you happen to be physically related to somebody that's in your family, you're lucky, and
Mhm.
that family isn't necessarily about the people who gave birth to you, you know, and so that's the case for me. And I wanted to add something to what we were talking about a minute ago.
Mhm.
You know, because we're drawn into dysfunction, we end up in toxic relationships. The toxic relationships end up, we don't even know who we are a lot of
Mhm.
the time. And to touch on the religious thing that you said, and I don't know, you can feel free to cut this out if you want, but
Mhm.
I think it's an important issue.
Yeah. Oh no, we cut nothing out. Everything.
Okay.
It's free, real, raw, uncensored, unscripted. You
Right
know,
on.
everything's real talk. Yep.
Right on. Okay. So one of the things that really concerns me is I see this a lot. These and you would think these things have been extinct for years, but we both know that they haven't.
Mhm.
These camps that I think the religious camps that try to change people
Mhm.
and not to change them into nice people, but to change them into straight people or change them
Mhm.
into, you know,
Yeah. What's expected by society?
or their
What's
religion.
acceptable? Yeah. What's
Yeah.
acceptable to them?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that is a big problem. I know that they have cut a lot of those out, but they're still there.
Mhm.
And kids are being kidnapped to go to them by their own parents.
Mhm.
And I just want, I mean, there have been countless studies and pieces of research produced that have said this is how you are born.
Mhm.
It is not a
Exactly.
choice.
Mhm.
So I feel really strongly that I think that concept is one example of how
Mhm.
religion um, it's ruining itself
Mhm.
and it's causing so much division. It's just frustrating. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to light. I think that's an important issue that a lot of people
Yeah.
should be aware of and should recognize is toxic. You know.
Exactly. And I mean, for me personally, I believe that we're people first. You know,
Mhm.
the labels are all second, which we shouldn't label anyone anyway.
I agree.
In one of the previous podcasts I did an interview with a woman who owned a salon,
Mhm.
Fuzz Hair, who we actually talked about her project, which is the dress code project, because hair has no gender,
Mm.
right? So then who's to say what's male, what's female? So if you take the DNA of a hair strand, it's neither male nor female, it's just human hair. That's it. So why should we be judged accordingly? Why should we pay accordingly? Why should we?
Really?
Because then we're being put in that box
Mhm.
where that's what it's saying. So you're this, so you're okay. So for me, I'm male. I should have short hair. I should have this. I should have that. I should, you should have a life, be married, have 2.4 kids, a dog, a white picket fence,
Mhm.
and debt up to the Yahoo. But
Right.
but just what society says. But we know that things are changing, relationships are changing, what parenthood is changing,
Mhm.
people are growing, because if something's in your DNA, how can you say that's wrong? Because these parents that are bringing those kids to the camps, they're the ones that created that child.
Tell me
it's
about it.
it's
I
their
know.
DNA. So
Yes.
it's like yeah, because that's one of my hot buttons.
Mm.
I'm trying to keep it cool for here, but that's what it is. It's like people are so, I don't know. I think we're just conditioned to judge or be judged, or we're scared of being judged all the time. And I
Yeah.
think that's why we have the people pleaser kind of mentality, that if we don't please this person and they don't like us, there's
Mhm.
something wrong with us. So I think in that case, you probably know more on this than I do. But when you're constantly trying to please people, I think you lose yourself somewhere down the road. And especially with a narcissist, they're going to prey on people that are naturally giving, naturally that want to be there and do stuff for them, which brings us to another point, and something we had discussed on a show we had done before is with empaths and narcissists. So
Mhm.
with having empathic qualities like both you and I do, there's something that happens, and I'll get you to kind of explain a little bit more on that of the relationship between an empath and a narcissist.
Sure. Okay. Um, so it's a toxic attraction. I mean, the 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 empath by nature is wired to feel what other people feel, and therefore also wired to react swiftly to extreme emotion.
Hmm.
So, what do narcissists do? They have extreme emotion. Early in the relationship, they test us and they have a big drama or a big tragedy, or they get really, really angry at somebody or something. And we then, by nature, pick up the pieces happily, and put them back
Hmm.
together. And they go, up, that's the one. Because
Hmm.
now they know we're going to drop whatever we're doing. It doesn't matter what it is. And we're going to help them put their pieces back together. We're going to
Hmm.
do whatever we can to soothe those savage emotions.
Hmm.
And so by doing that, we prove to them that we are who they need, because we're going to put whatever we have going on aside, our own feelings, our own physical and mental and emotional needs, for them every
Hmm.
time. And it is our nature to do that. But we also, when we are healthy empaths, should expect our partners and friends to do the same for us, or we shouldn't continue to do it for them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And would you think that the narcissist then, because you're so willing to do everything for them, they
Mhm.
kind of have less respect for you because you're
Oh,
not really standing up for yourself? You're like,
mhm.
they need it. Okay, I'll just cancel my afternoon and I'll move everything around and I'll just do, just to help them out. And it's funny, we do all this crazy stuff for a person who doesn't really care anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what they do in order to get us to keep doing it is they give us intermittent reinforcement. So for example, they'll be a jerk for a week, and then on Sundays, they're nice. And it's not
Yeah.
usually scheduled that way, unfortunately, but they treat us terribly, and
Hmm.
then they are nice a little bit, a tiny bit. Like they'll listen to you talk about something for 5 minutes and go, oh, that's interesting. And you'll feel like, my gosh, they just hung the moon, because you're so used to getting treated like crap all the time.
Hmm.
And yet the reason that we stay is very much like drug addiction. Okay.
Hmm.
Because and there are physiological reasons for this, and I won't go into all of them because it's kind of boring, but
Hmm.
it's the same part of the brain that's affected by drug addiction, cocaine addiction, alcohol addiction, all of it. So what happens is that with intermittent reinforcement in both drug and alcohol abuse, as well as narcissistic abuse, which are two, very different things, but
Hmm.
is that we get that high, that good high at the beginning, right? So when we first
Hmm.
meet the narcissist, what happens? They idealize and love bomb. And so we feel like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is my soulmate. They understand me. They get me. They feel me. It's good. And then we spend the rest of the relationship begging for that, wanting that back, and trying really, really hard to be good enough to get it, and never being good enough. And the reinforcement, the intermittent reinforcement, is like little doses of the drug. Whereas before we're addicted to the drug, we're always chasing that first time high, and we never get it again
Hmm.
either. You know what I mean? So it's a similar concept.
I guess, and the same thing too, like you said, we're so used to living in dysfunction. So
Mm.
even if everything is bad, 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 but that one little good, I think for us can kind of give us that little bit of hope. Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to work out. Or if I do a little bit more, they'll give me a little bit more, you know what I mean? Reinforcement and that sort of thing. But obviously, too, does that have anything to do with our own self worth? Or because I think, too, if you're strong in yourself, but I guess they say love is blind, and when you're in that relationship you don't always see, even though your friends are saying maybe this person isn't right for you, and then I guess they would go, well, you don't see that person the way that I do, you're just jealous because I have someone and you don't, or whatever it may be.
Well, and a lot of times the narcissist reinforces those feelings that people express when someone comes up and says, "Hey, that's not right." And one of the things narcissists do to almost every victim, and I am saying victim here because we're not really a survivor till we're out,
Hmm.
but um, what they do is they literally isolate them. from anybody who might support them. They isolate them from their friends and their family members and people who seem to either want to control you or who want to empower you. They want to be the one to control you, and they don't want you to be empowered. They want you. It's interesting because they seek out people who are strong and attractive and intelligent, but then they seek out the ability to crush those people into, just nothingness. And what they really want is someone who is strong and beautiful and intelligent, but also who you could fold up and put in a box on the closet shelf until you're ready to play with them again. Do you know what I mean? Like a toy. And humans don't work that way, and that's part of the reason they never have good relationships.
No, but do you think in that love bombing stage, that's also too where they're kind of building their trust with you?
Oh, yeah.
So then that way they're going to be more attentive. They're going to listen to every word you have to say. They're going to get to know as much about you, your friends, your family, and they're going to find those little loopholes or those cracks, especially if you have maybe a not so good relationship with your parents, or they know a friend who really influences you that you listen to and you take their advice. And if they say they don't like somebody, boom, they're out of your life. Because like you said, this person wants to control you, so they want to take out any factor that will kind of impede their success.
Right.
So another question: is there a difference between a narcissist and an emotional vampire?
I think they're the same. I think they're one and the same. I mean, a narcissist is. Ow, I just bit my face. A narcissist is an emotional vampire. They are. I've used, and I think we talked about it before, I used very often the example of True Blood. Have you seen True Blood?
Yes.
Yeah. So Bill the vampire, and even though I don't think Bill's particularly as narcissistic as, say, Eric, who I think is much more attractive, but the idea, though. So Bill the vampire is very attracted to Sookie because why? Not only is she cute and everything, but she smells delicious and she's different than everybody, blah, blah, blah. He, as a vampire, he wants to eat her because then what? He can walk in the light, right?
Yes.
She's attracted to him for what reason? Because she can't hear him. She walks around in the world and hears all the humans and their thoughts. She can't hear Bill's thoughts. So she's much more attracted to him because it's more peaceful, she thinks, with him. And so there's this dynamic with vampires and fairies in the show that is very much like the dynamic with empaths and narcissists, because you have a narcissist who needs to feed on technically not your blood, your emotions and your pain and whatever, your supply, your admiration, all of these things. And then you have an empath who wants to, can't read the narcissist as well as they can read other people. And also who wants to help them be a better version of whatever they are. And often narcissists suck us in with the little sob story, poor me, everything's so terrible, blah, blah. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but I always find that comparison to be very interesting, because I really do think that narcissists are emotional vampires.
Well, because they're also draining. They're draining you physically, they're draining you emotionally, they're draining you socially. They're draining you because they're taking you away from your friends, they're taking you away from your environment. They need a close tab. If you're at work, call me when you get to work. If you're at lunch, call me. When you're at home, make sure. Or they call and, why didn't you pick up the phone? I was in a meeting. Well, you need to, you know what I mean? And it's
painful.
I understand it can be pretty intense for some of these people that you help, or people that are survivors that finally. So when somebody becomes a survivor and sees the light, what's the biggest epiphany they would normally have?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the first big epiphany is simply that, oh my gosh, I'm being abused. Because so often, like sometimes they'll come out of a physically abusive childhood home and then they don't even recognize the emotional abuse. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think that a lot of people, even professionals, truly recognize narcissistic abuse as abuse because they just don't get it. They don't understand how pervasive and painful it can be. But I think the next big revelation for a lot of survivors, once they really wrap their head around what they're dealing with, because they do a lot of research, they try to understand. Once they do that, then I think the revelation is, oh my gosh, I'm not the big piece of crap the narcissist told me I was for my whole life or for my last 20 years or whatever.
Hmm.
And oh my gosh, I can make choices. Oh my gosh, this person really is a toxic person. And I know that because I can see all, Brad, be rad.
Hmm.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
So people tell me all the time, it's like you were describing my life. Or are you
Hmm.
listening into my kitchen window? Stuff like this, because they really think
Hmm.
they're alone in the world. And I think that's another big revelation, is that when they recognize, okay, there are thousands of people who are going through something similar, who have been through something similar,
Hmm.
that changes people's lives and their whole understanding of their lives. And on the one more thing, when I went through it and I went no contact with my parental unit,
Hmm.
um, let's talk about the 80s. Anyway,
Yes.
um, I had a huge revelation of understanding that I didn't believe what I thought I believed. Everything that I thought was true, I had to question, because there
Hmm.
were so many things in my head that weren't my beliefs or my intentions for my life.
Hmm.
It's interesting.
So were those put in by the narcissist, or did you have times when you were going through it and your own mind was thinking, I don't think this is right? Hmm.
Sorry. Yeah. I often questioned everything about my reality. Um, but truly, if I'm being really honest with you, my narcissistic parent made literally every choice in my life until I was 35 years old,
Hmm.
because I didn't realize they were doing that. They were manipulating me from a very, I mean, they put those buttons in, they installed the buttons they were pushing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so when I look back and I think, even when I made a choice that felt like a rebellious choice back then, it turns out that I made that choice in order to rebel against them.
Hmm.
And so I I guess my point is that there when you go through this, your entire identity may be a shock to you when you see it and realize it. Now, some of the things about me turned out to be good and legit and real,
Hmm.
but a large percentage of, like, I'm so much more laid back than I knew I was. you know,
Hmm.
I don't have judgmental thoughts in any way. For, like, well, that's not true, because I judge some people. Child molesters,
Hmm.
judge the
Hmm.
crap out of those people.
Yes.
People who hurt other people for no reason, totally going to judge them.
Hmm.
But outside of that, I always tell my kids, I want you to be happy, healthy, and legal.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you can be all of those things, I
Yeah.
just do what you want. I mean, when they're adults, when they're kids,
Hmm.
they have certain things they have to
Oh,
go.
of course. And you have to be in, obviously if your child is 12, they're not going to go out and party all night,
Oh,
right?
hell no.
There are certain
Limitations.
rules, right? They can't date till they're 40. But
I keep trying. My 10-year-old keeps, but yeah,
no,
really though.
but
Yeah.
but do you think having if you grow up in a narcissistic family, do you think kind of when you leave and you go out, it becomes a repeated pattern? So some people will leave a narcissist and then fall right back into another relationship with the
Oh,
narcissist
yes.
because that's kind of what you know. And to say having parents that are narcissist, does that now skew your view where you think, well, every marriage is like this. So when I get married, this is what marriage is.
Oh, that messed me up for a long time. Yeah. And what's interesting about that, because
Mhm.
this is interesting, this is a good question. The narcissist in my case was a female parent, my original one. I've also
Mhm.
been married to one, a male,
Mhm.
but she ruled the house with an iron fist. She chose everything. She chose the decorations, what everybody wore, how everything was. And so, I thought that's what mothers did,
Mhm.
what wives did.
Mhm.
So when I got married, I was like trying to rule with an iron fist. That didn't work out very well. And I don't even want to rule anything with an iron fist.
No,
It's
but you
funny.
thought that's the expectation. If I'm going to be a
Yeah,
wife or a mother, or you know what I mean,
yeah.
I have to be strong for my mate because this is what it's all about.
This
And
is
if I
what marriage
don't
is,
do
right?
this, I won't measure up, and I'll fail as a partner.
Yeah. And on top of that, it was interesting because I was actually attacked by that narcissist parent for not controlling my husband properly.
Mm.
Which
Yeah.
I found incredibly interesting. But it turns out I don't want to be anybody's boss. I own a company, and I literally have somebody that I pay to not make me boss people,
Hmm.
because I don't want to
Yeah.
be anybody's boss.
No, but
And,
that's
you know,
exactly the way it should be. And as an owner, I think of any company and any business, that's really what you need. You get somebody who you trust, who you
mhm,
believe in, who can take care of all the managerial stuff, who can
mhm,
take care of all that, or come to you with the important decisions. But generally, they can weed out all that bottom feeder stuff. They can
mhm.
delegate for you so you can concentrate more on what you need. Because if you have to constantly micromanage everything,
Exactly.
then you're not really going to have a life, because you're constantly now, every little decision you have to make. And it just gets, I think it just builds and builds and builds. But as
Mhm.
I say, with expanding, so what made you decide that, okay, now is time, I want to expand my coaching business? How did you go about finding your coaches and expanding your business?
So it's interesting, because okay, this is interesting. um, when I was not ever going to do that. That was never going to be a thing. And then I got a pitch from one of my former admins, and I felt uncomfortable with the way it was pitched. So I just kind of threw it to the wayside. But she was pitching something similar to what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
It was not exactly the same concept, but a similar weird version of the
Hmm.
concept.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but what turned out is that um, a couple of my longtime admins came to me. They had been doing basically support in the groups,
Hmm.
and they wanted to know, where did you get your certification? And we kind of had to talk about it. And
Hmm.
they went through the certification program at the same school that I did, and then they went through an additional certification program for narcissistic abuse recovery
Hmm.
that I created around them and around my community, so that
Hmm.
they understood. I knew that they already knew about it, but I wanted them
Hmm.
to know all the things.
Yes.
And so they went through that program. And at that time, we started to kind of, put them into the positions. And as we
Hmm.
did that, like, one of them has developed an amazing group coaching program, which I never had time to sit down and do
Hmm.
because I was just too busy. But I wanted to do it. I just have time to do it.
Hmm.
And it's really working well. And the other one, and we have one that focuses on divorce only, and, going through the divorce with the narcissist. And then
Hmm.
we have one who focuses a lot on self-care and self-esteem and things like that, kind of helping people through the understanding and the overcoming phases. She also does, one-on-ones for the new people who
Hmm.
first get into it. And then we
Yes.
have somebody who focuses a lot on the adult children of narcissists. So we have a really nice spectrum of
Hmm.
pros in place who have not only experienced the things that they're coaching on, but who have become educated on those things as well. And so it's been a long process getting everyone in place,
Hmm.
but it's so far so good, and expansion is hard. But
Hmm.
the reason that I went ahead with it is because while I love coaching,
Hmm.
I eventually don't want to be coaching as often,
Hmm.
because I really like to focus on um, what I do best, which I'm good at coaching,
Hmm.
but it's emotionally stressful for a survivor,
Hmm.
for me, sometimes,
Yeah.
not all the time.
Well, and also taking on, being empathic, plus taking on everybody's stories.
Yes.
So, do you still run a 5 day a week show?
Well, I do have videos 5 days a week.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
sometimes I'm not streaming 5 days right now, but that
Okay.
that will probably go back to.
Yeah. But I think you have more than enough content about every kind of subject, and then some,
Yeah.
because you not only have, but you also have um, empath entrepreneur as
Mhm.
well. So people are entrepreneurs, but you also do the other, because didn't you used to do a lot of writing for, um, now I have to think, a script, not script writer, what are they called? Copy.
Oh yeah, I did
Writing copy
copywriting.
for
Yeah.
people and doing that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. You
Yeah.
also have business stuff. Tell me a little bit. Wow, the time's flying. It's been almost an hour already, but
Oh.
we'll just. I know you're a busy woman, and your assistant is probably like winking at you, saying you've got 5 appointments waiting. But if you can talk a little bit about your academy that you have, your online academy, and
Oh,
what
sure.
people can find inside there. Plus, there was also a summit you did as well.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So the Life Makeover Academy, I'm sorry, I'm getting all these notifications. Life Makeover Academy it's kind of like it's an online school, right? But everything that I have there, I have like different sections. So there's one section that focuses, of course, on personal development, all of it for narcissistic abuse survivors specifically. And then there's the other side of it that focuses on, and I think anything that works for a narcissistic abuse survivor is also geared to empaths. But in this case, it's specifically for people who have survived this kind of abuse and who are trying to get out of this kind of abuse and all this stuff. It's very, very, I think it's so important to support this population because for so long we had no voices. Oh, that reminds me of something else I want to tell you before we go.
Yep.
Um, but so there's that. And then on the other side of it, there's the Empath Entrepreneur Program. And the reason, and those are courses that are designed for empaths, survivor or not, that are trying to do something to give back to the world. So something like you're doing, or not that you need it, but I'm just saying anytime that we're doing anything to try to help other people, we can, especially if it's our passion, and we're driven to do it by what I consider, I consider myself to be divinely driven to do what I do. It's not always a choice for me. It's a thing that I must do. I think you're similar with your mission here.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I have your courses with the journaling and with the, I mean, it's amazing the content that you offer. There are some free resources, there are some fee-based resources, but it's also, it's also there as well. So how we met is, I guess, through your summit.
Oh yeah.
Where I was a guest on your summit, so you can tell people a little bit about the summit, and it's still available for them to purchase, correct?
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah. The summit, it was really amazing. I met you and a few other people during that time that I still, I met a bunch of people, but some of them I'm still in contact with.
Yes.
So I held the Life Makeover Summit. That was kind of the whole launch to Life Makeover Academy, really. But it was a summit where we wanted to just help people make every part of their life better. And that is a lot of what we do at Life Makeover Academy. But during that summit, we had these interviews, as you know, where I did live interviews for I think it was a week, several times a day. And boy, that was crazy. But
I think you had, at least 3 to 4 guests per day, plus tons of free resources, tons of, it's amazing what you packed into that that summit.
Yeah. And there's, of course, as you mentioned, there's lots of extra resources even available now for those people who do purchase still. But I should reduce the cost of it at this point. It's been up a year, I think, or 2 years. I don't even know. Anyway, but it was good. It was a really good summit. And I probably will do another one. I don't know that I don't know if I can do it every year right now, but I probably will do another one because it was a lot of fun. But it was a good summit. And I think that was the thing that, like I said, launched Life Makeover Academy. And that's the idea. In fact, behind my whole business, that I wanted whatever content I produce or participate in has to be something that makes people's lives better on some level. That's what I believe. And I just think it's good karma, better energy, all of that stuff. So yeah. But if you don't mind, I want to squeeze in one more thing.
You sure can.
Yay!
Squeeze in as much as you like.
Squeeze in. Okay. Anyway, so I should have brought a copy in here. Anyway, so I have the new book. It's releasing tomorrow. It is called, I'm so excited.
I know, I'm almost on the edge of my seat.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's called The Evolution of Echo. I didn't write this one by myself. I wrote it with 21 other survivors.
Oh, wow.
And it's amazing. It is amazing. They share their personal stories. I share my personal story. They share their best advice for survivors. And all of these women and men are thrivers today.
Wow.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. The cover art was made by Maria Kaufman, who is one of my admins and an amazing artist. It is beautiful. She's also a survivor. Every single person who participated in this book is a survivor. And it's very exciting. So I'm super psyched. So people can go to queenbeing.com/anthology if they want to check it out.
Oh, perfect. So is it a downloadable, or can they actually get a physical copy?
Both. There's a Kindle
Oh,
version and a
okay.
paperback.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I have to get a copy. And what I'd love to do is have you back again if your assistant will allow you some free time, and do an actual we'll do a Facebook Live.
Oh, I'd love it.
That way the audience can talk to you, participate with you. We'll talk more on the book. I'm sure this book will make you laugh, make you cry, probably go through all the range of emotions you never thought you had.
Yes. Some of these stories will shock you, and some of them will make you really sad, but all of them will inspire you when you're finished reading them.
Yeah, so it's kind of a chicken soup type of
Yeah, I guess so.
something
On some
for a
level.
survivor's soul, not based on that, but the stories, the anecdotes, the thing. And I think that's what it is, because this book not only tells the stories, but it's also empowering others.
Yes.
Right? Which is similar to what I'm doing now. As I say, and I mentioned to you before, we're doing an empowerment cruise. So basically, this is our summit at sea. October 12th to 19th. So we start off, we leave from Miami, we go to Honduras, we go to Costa Maya, we go to Cozumel, which is where the Mayan ruins are. We have a private island in the Bahamas.
Oh my
So
God.
right now we have balcony rooms. So balcony rooms, it includes a free bottle of red wine. You also get dinner for two at Jamie Oliver's Italian. You get your government taxes, port taxes, gratuities, everything, like all your stuff. You get 9 restaurants, two are 24 hours. Plus there's tons of stuff. You can surf, you can rock climb, you can ice skate. It's perfect for the kids to come. So it's great for everyone. So normally I have I'll put the link below so you guys can see, but normally these rooms go for about $9,000. So it's a brand new ship, Symphony of the Seas, which is the world's largest ship. So I think US, it's around $11.89 US. So you're saving like $8,000.
That's amazing.
Because of the group, and you get everything you can ever imagine. The live show is a Broadway cast of Hairspray. There's 1977, which is the recreation of the Wright brothers story, how they made the first airplane. There's 1977, which is like an ice capade show. Kids can also play laser tag. There's also like Hyro, which is high diving. There's everything you could ever imagine, like on it, and it's going to be, so it's October 12th to 19th of next year. So people can register now, put their deposit down now, and you have until June of next year to pay.
Amazing.
So most people, if you can do $25 a week, give up your Starbucks for 5 days a week. You can have, and speaking of Starbucks, there's a Starbucks on board.
What?
So if you need your Starbucks, it's already there. Like, Angie, it's always a pleasure. It's already been over an hour, and I'm like, it feels like we're just getting started.
I know.
But we'll definitely have you on again in the future, and just say we'll set up something. We'll let everybody know about a Facebook Live where people can interact with you. We'll put your site so people can check out the book. So if you guys can grab it online, grab it, and then we'll do some dialogue. So if you have any questions for Angie, you can watch her either stream, or she has amazing videos on YouTube. So it's just under your own name, correct? So it's youtube.com/Angie Atkinson. You'll find everything there you ever needed. As I say, she has coaches that will specialize in certain areas as well. She's dynamic in everything she does. If you want, I think you even have a site for weight loss. You have a Facebook group for weight loss, for empathic entrepreneurs. She has her list goes on and on and on. And I don't want to get off, but I know I have to, because I know, I'll be getting a message from your assistant saying, you took too long.
He's the boss. What can I tell you?
That's right. So I want to say thank you, Angie, for joining us here in the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast.
Thanks
and And so I want to say thank you, everyone, for listening. So if you want to know more about narcissistic abuse, more so being a survivor, check out the links below, and we'll see you next time.